How's it going, everyone? Hope you've all been doing great. Just keeping up with the playoffs like I've been doing and watching everything go down. It's been some of the best playoff basketball that we've been witnessing. I think, personally, the bubble has been a huge success, even though there are no fans, and that does definitely take away from basketball. It's still just been incredible to watch the best players perform at the highest level on defense and offense. It's really great. I love it, and I'm glad that it's been happening. The players have all been doing great. And they put me in a weird position because for the Eastern Conference, I picked the Raptors to beat the Celtics. That didn't happen. On top of that, I picked the Bucks to beat the Heat. That also did not happen. So here we are, and it's going to be the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's going to be the Celtics facing the Heat. And that is something that I just don't know who to pick, or I didn't for a long time at least. I do have a prediction, and we're going to go through all of that. And so this video is mostly just going to be talking about why I think it's going to be such an incredible series, why I do think that the Miami Heat are going to be able to beat the Celtics and win, and just going forward, it'll be great. I don't really know what else to say, so let's just keep on going and talk about why the Heat are great. First of all, Jimmy Butler has been one of my favorite players for a very long time. Really, once he went to Minnesota is where I truly got on the bandwagon, I guess, and got behind him because everything that went on in Minnesota, personally, I just loved it all. I've always kind of had the same opinion that Jimmy Butler has had with that team, it seemed, where it looked, and everyone could tell that Towns and Wiggins and that whole group just didn't really work as hard as maybe they should have been doing if they wanted to actually win anything in the NBA. They've seemed to kind of get complacent, and when Jimmy Butler was calling them all out on that, everyone painted Jimmy Butler as the villain in the media and just on social media and everywhere. It seemed like most people saw that Jimmy Butler was doing things horribly and just assumed that he was a bad person. But during that whole time, every time that I would read the stories and find out what happened, I was always thinking to myself, what is Jimmy Butler doing wrong? Because the fact is that Jimmy Butler is just always been such a great player, and the reason for that is because of how hard he's worked throughout his whole life and throughout his whole career. He was the 30th pick in his draft. Jimmy Butler single-handedly showed up to Minnesota and brought them to the playoffs, and as soon as he left, so did the Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoff picture. And they've been nowhere to be found. I mean, we don't know what's going to go on with their future. They got the first pick, but this isn't about them right now. So Jimmy Butler has just worked for everything that he's got. He's already been a 5-time All-Star. He's been a 4-time All-Defensive Player, a great leader, and he's just outworks everyone. You always hear stories about Jimmy Butler showing up at like 3 in the morning for practice when no human being would think to do that. Jimmy Butler decides that he needs to do it, and he puts up his shots. He has become a pretty respectable shooter. He's been shooting really great during the playoffs, at least. He's been a pretty great mid-range shooter for a while now. His three-point shot has came and gone. He's been shooting pretty good during this playoff run, at least. He's shooting 50% so far, so that's insane, even though it's only on 2 attempts a game. That's still been a pretty long time now, and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he's still doing this. So it's not like he's a bad shooter, and we all know that Jimmy Butler is one of those players that elevates his game during the playoffs, and he's been just leading this team. He is potentially their best playmaker, even though they've also got Goran Dragic. He's averaged a career-high 6 assists this year, and on top of that, he averaged a career-high 4.8 rebounds a game. Miami was the perfect place for Jimmy Butler to end up on, and he knew that, which is why he wanted to go there, even though he was in a decent situation in Philadelphia. It wasn't for him, and he knew that the Miami culture, where they make sure that every single player is under 10% body fat and just things like that, where Miami is on top of everything, player health, and just making sure that everyone's working. Jimmy Butler is probably the best leader in the NBA, or one of them at least, just for his high motor, high work ethic, and everything that he's able to do and say. He's not afraid to call out a player if he thinks they need to be playing better. He's not afraid to take a big shot if we need a big shot. He's not afraid to pass the ball. He's not that selfish when you actually watch him play at all. He's very okay with averaging whatever he needs to in order to win. That's what he was doing early in his career in Chicago, and that's only continued. He's been a 20-point per game scorer since he started doing that. If you watch any of the Miami Heat interviews, especially on the JJ Redick podcast with Jimmy Butler and Bam, and just when you look at any time that you hear the Miami group talk about each other and talk about their players, they've just got so much confidence in everyone. Jimmy Butler is so high on Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, and I don't think Jimmy Butler would be saying that about just anyone, but they put up a lot of shots and they're great shooters already. I didn't think they were going to get here this early on, just because Tyler Hero is a rookie and Duncan Robinson's only a sophomore in his career so far, and yet they're already making it this far on a huge run. And I think that's only going to continue. When you look at the Heat roster up and down, they've just got so much talent and so much depth. They've got Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero are all averaging about 15 at least, if not more. Jay Crowder, Duncan Robinson, Derek Jones Jr., and Kelly Olynyk have all been playing great. If you look at their numbers, you could see that even though they're not averaging the highest amount of points, they've been shooting great from the field. If you take a look at effective field goal percentage, which weights three-pointers as having 1.5 times as much of an impact than twos, Jimmy Buckets and Tyler Hero have been the lowest on the Heat team, besides Kendrick Nunn, but we're not going to talk about him because he's been kind of garbo. But besides him, Butler and Hero are both shooting at about 52% when the league average is 53%, and everyone else in the rotation above them has been shooting way higher than 53%. And on the Celtics, you can't really say the same. Even though their bigs have pretty high effective field goal percentages, the rest of the team isn't as good and not nearly as efficient as the Heat have been, because the Heat have so many different shooters. When you look at their team, Kelly Olynyk, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Derek Jones Jr., Jimmy Butler have all been able to shoot very great. They've all been shooting at least 38% from three, and that's very good. League average is like 36%. So 38%, that's pretty high. The Celtics, though, have a very, very strong team, too. I don't want to count them out of this series at all. I am picking Miami, but, I mean, we all know that basically any series can go any way. You don't know what's going to happen in the NBA until it actually happens, but that's the fun of predictions. But the Celtics, with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think both of them can be the cornerstone key piece of a franchise. I'm really high on Jaylen Brown. The Celtics are a really good team, and they've got me worried. I don't really know who to go with in this series because Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that group are all incredible defenders that are able to, they're gonna cause a lot of problems for a lot of these Heat players. They've just shown up on the defensive side of things most of the time, and on top of that have had a very good offensive performance in almost every game they've been playing. Jason Tatum has raised his game during this playoff run. He's averaging about 25 now, and he's also averaging 10 rebounds a game. So and on top of that, Tatum has also been almost close to a triple-double a few times. His assists are way up, and Boston is not going to go down easy by any means. They still have the best defense in the NBA during the bubble, and on top of that, they still have Kemba Walker, who I have barely mentioned so far, but if Kemba Walker is going to be able to start cooking, that's going to really make the Celtics get into the games. Because I think that the Heat do have the personnel to slow him down along with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we don't know when Gordon Hayward might come back, but he could play a role. I'm not saying positive or negative, because I mean, coming back from an injury during the playoffs, sometimes you see that doesn't really work out so well. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Gordon Hayward. One of the main X factors during this series is going to be the point guard matchup, because if Kemba Walker is going to be able to play like we know he's capable of playing, an all-star caliber player for sure, all-star starter even, and so if Kemba Walker is able to get going with like 20, 30 points, then the Celtics are going to be right in the games as long as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and everyone steps up. But I think that the Heat are going to be able to slow him down with just all of their bodies that they've got going. And that's why I have the Heat winning in a 6-game series. I'm going to say in 6. I think that they do have the better team, and I think they're going to be able to get it done. And I I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics end up making it past them, obviously. But I think the Heat can do it. During the Heat's playoff run so far, they've only lost to Milwaukee once, and you have to just tip your hat to them because I don't think anyone expected them to dominate Milwaukee in the fashion that they did. but they were able to get it done, and I think that the Heat are going to be able to just keep their momentum going into the next series and make it at least to the NBA Finals where they'll meet the Lakers. The Celtics lack a solid rim protector. I think everyone would admit to that. Daniel Tice has been very good for them. I think he's been better than I expected him to be at least, but he's not the greatest center in the league. Most people would say he's about average, but that's not to say that they're bad, but it's just to say that the Heat have Bam Adebayo at center. And Bam Adebayo and Daniel Tice, sorry Tice, I'm picking Adebayo. Adebayo is a legitimate threat because Adebayo has the capability to guard 1 through 5 pretty effectively, if not very effectively. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and I do believe he has Defensive Player of the Year type potential. I think he could definitely win that award one of these years if he continues to improve. And he's great offensively too. He averaged about 16 this year, and he's able to dribble the ball a pretty good amount. He's a very good passer, especially for his size. And he's very strong and athletic, one of the strongest and most athletic players in the league. He's got a great height and weight for the NBA, in today's NBA in particular, which allows him to finish strong and pretty efficiently as well, shooting about 54-55% throughout this year. When it comes down to it, I think the Heat are going to be able to outmatch the Celtics. I think Kelly Olynyk, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and that group will be able to just produce a little bit more. And they've got great defenders. Andre Iguodala is someone I haven't even brought up yet, and he is a very key piece to them. He's a former Finals MVP who can lock up a lot of different wings. The Heat are going to be able to play phenomenal defense on the inside. Jay Crowder is another key piece who is very capable of playing great defense and shooting the three. He had a game winner early this year on the Grizzlies, and he got traded basically as a throw-in piece during the Justice Winslow trade, which I never really understood because, to me, he was one of the better players in that deal. Jay Crowder, a former Celtic, is going to give the Celtics a decent amount of trouble too. They've got a lot of different bodies. Jimmy Butler, one of the best defenders in the league. They've got Jay Crowder, another great defender. Andre Iguodala, great defender. Bam Adebayo, great defender. Goran Dragic and Tyler Hero, I think, is also a pretty underrated defender. When you actually watch him play, he's not that bad at all. These are two teams that are very well coached. Eric Spoelstra and Brad Stevens are two of the best coaches in the NBA. I think that no one would really doubt that. So it's going to be a great series to watch. I'm really excited for it. I don't really care what happens in this series. Don't have too much of an attachment to either team, even though Jimmy Butler is great, and I've been really high on the Heat, so I would love to see Jimmy Butler win. I'm just a sad Knicks fan though, so it doesn't really matter to me. I will say Jason Tatum is probably the best player in the series, even though I do love Jimmy Butler and I love Bam Adebayo even. I think Jason Tatum probably has that title right now. Just the way he's been playing, he's a great shooter. He can shoot from anywhere on the court, it seems. He's a very great athletic finisher. He can dunk. Tatum is probably the best player in the series, but the Miami defense is going to be able to handle him a little bit. I don't think Kemba Walker or Jaylen Brown are going to create too much of a problem. And Marcus Smart is a very streaky player as well. So even though Marcus Smart is a great defender, I think the Heat are going to have a decent amount of trouble getting their shots off, just with the way that Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum are going to be able to play. I think they're going to play very good defense. It's not going to be an easy series. The playoffs have been very close. Every series has been at least a competitive series. I'm going to have to go with Miami in 6, so thank you and goodbye. What's up? I'm back. Yeah, and I'm also wearing a different shirt and just a different outfit in general because it's a different day, but I just wanted to pop in again because the Rockets ended up getting eliminated in 5 games. So that's on me. I said they were going to win the championship. I expected Harden and Westbrook to play a lot better than they ended up playing. I know some of the games were better than others, but that's kind of how basketball goes. But yeah, they just got killed basically by the Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. They did what I knew they could have done, and I mean, going into that series, I thought there was a decent chance that they might get swept, because I mean, yeah, I could have probably known that the Lakers were gonna win, and I still wanted to make the video anyways though, because I just hoped that maybe it would go a little bit differently. I saw how the Rockets were able to play against Golden State, and I know that was a completely different team, and back then they still had Clint Capella and Chris Paul, so it's not really a fair comparison, but still, I saw those teams and I saw Harden, and I thought that he was in the best shape of his career, and I thought that him and Westbrook would be able to just both go and kind of turn into that MVP form that they're both capable of doing. Saw that one comment that said that Westbrook is the worst he's ever been. I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. So just when you look at his career, he's not been horrible, especially this season. Yeah, he had a little bit of a struggle during this playoffs, but sorry, don't know what to say. But yeah, the Rockets are gone now. The Lakers beat them, and I will be picking the Lakers to go all the way to the NBA Finals and win it. But that's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not too much of a shock. So yeah, if you do enjoy my content still, I'm still planning on posting, even though that was bad. I hope that the heat can actually make me seem a little bit educated, because I promise I do know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm gonna keep on posting videos. I'm gonna try and post about 2 a week. I've been having a little bit of a struggle on my PlayStation because I've been trying to capture the footage, but the Wi-Fi in my building that I live in has just been horrible. I live on a college, or I live off campus, but I'm a college student, so I've got some issues that I need to work out, but eventually I might just end up buying something to start capturing footage, because I think playing 2K could be a little bit fun. So I'm gonna be trying to do that pretty soon, and I'm gonna still eventually be putting out NBA history type videos when the off season is happening, because I don't think I really want to do it right now, and especially when I have a little bit more free time in some sort of break or something, that'd be good to do. But yeah, if you want to stick around, that'd be great. Be sure to like it, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment letting me know anything that you think, and also, if you want to be going into those comments, you should tell me anything that you've seen that is wrong with NBA 2K21's player ratings, because pretty soon I do want to create a video where I go through everyone. I'm probably going to separate these videos by division, and I'm going to be editing everyone's attributes, everyone's shot tendencies, everyone's badges, which I actually did do in NBA 2K20. It took me about 3 days, but I went through everyone and I did it. I did it very, very late for some reason, and I was thinking about making a video, and if you really want, I could show off that roster. It wasn't the best. I think that this roster is going to be better because in general, 2K did a decent job at making more realistic progression, because in my other roster there was definitely some issues, but I think this one should be better, and I'm hoping to test it out for myself a little bit, and eventually I'll be dropping those videos. So stay updated, I'll be posting more content soon, and have a great life. See ya.